Hello. So my paper is titled Wu Zetian and the Vilified Gender, and I decided to use that title because, well, one, it does sound dramatic, but throughout my paper I want to provide an argument, not only for the fact that women in power are often mislabeled as wicked, but a lot of times the issues revolving around that are way more complex than just their gender. It's often a symptom of the culture, the circumstance. I know I'm focusing on Wu Zetian in particular, so I have more knowledge about the issues revolving around why she is always seen as this very cruel woman throughout society or throughout history, and how she's presented in a lot of books and recorded documents and whatnot. So for my paper, I'm basically trying to say that it is too easy to say that she's vilified because she is a woman. Do the Chinese people have an issue with her being a woman? Yes. But there are many, many reasons for that. And two of the most important ones, or ones that I felt needed to be discussed, especially in order to bring them to the attention of people who don't necessarily have a lot of background in Chinese history, Chinese culture. These two issues are Confucianism and concubines, harems, that system of concubinage. I guess for my thesis, you could say that it would be the effects of Confucianism and concubinage on Wu Zetian's image and her reception in China and throughout the world. I want to provide an argument that these two factors, one is an idea, one is a system, have a lot of influence on how not only women are perceived in China, but how women holding power can be seen as backwards and terrifying to most people during that time. So for the first part of my paper, I want to discuss Confucianism, and why I decided to focus on Confucianism is because it is a very prevalent philosophy throughout Chinese history, if you will. It has a lot of effect and a lot of influence on how China has been structured and how the government has run, how the society has been structured for many, many years before the Tang Dynasty even existed. It was very, very well known, well set within the Chinese tradition before Wu Zetian was even born. This is important because it automatically limits or suppresses, restricts women, and it confines them to the role of being a mother, a wife, or a daughter. It's not to say that it didn't restrict all of society, it did. It gave them very defined roles, and discouraged any sort of experimentation or venture outside of those roles. But it was especially restrictive for women because they were basically confined to the house. They were without any sort of real power most of the time. That's not to say they didn't find ways around it. But for the purposes of the notion of what a woman was supposed to act like during this time in China, it had a lot of influence on how Wu Zetian was received in China. Confucianism is a hard topic to break down. Not necessarily hard, but a long and I could talk about it for a long time. And I'm trying to be brief in this video. So I guess the most important aspects to highlight are its restrictiveness to women, its traditional, very long-standing philosophy in China. And all of this was very, very well set in before Wu Zetian was born. So, as she tried to gain power, Confucian scholars, a Confucian society, would not be receptive to that because, one, it was just not how their society worked. Two, Confucianism believed that if society was supposed to run correctly, if the kingdom was going to run correctly, everyone needed to be in their proper place or things would fall apart. So this could be almost seen as a danger to a lot of people. And in my paper I will go in depth on the aspects of Confucianism that I believe are important to relate to Wu Zetian and the image of wickedness presented not only to her but to any woman that tried to attain power, whether she was successful or not. The second part of my paper is going to be over concubines. I was really interested in this system, and I think that it has a lot to do with how women are seen not only in China but across the world. This system was created mainly for the benefit of the emperor, obviously for the benefit of men. But that's not the important thing. The important thing here is that it created a power structure and a hierarchy for women, and women alone. It left them to basically fight among themselves in yet again a very restrictive and repressed environment. It also helped solidify a lot of stereotypes against women because these women were often in the public eye as far as being attached to the emperor usually. So it wasn't like they were a secret. Their lives were not a secret. Often the drama that happened within the harem was common knowledge. Concubines basically lived to please the emperor, and this did not give them many outlets for any sort of, shall I say, productive or nurturing sort of outlets. Their only chance to raise their status, raise the status of their family, raise up the ranks of the hierarchy within concubine system was to attain the favor of the emperor, was to outwit, outsmart, outmurder sometimes the other concubines. And many women participated in this. Oftentimes it was a very vicious environment to be brought into. Most women were not given the choice. Either they caught the emperor's eye because they were pretty, their families would give them to the emperor in order to attain some sort of favor, money. Some people were just too poor and they didn't really have the option of waiting for a good marriage. There were several reasons why women came into this system, but the fact remains that it was a very restricted system that gave them really only one goal that they could successfully attain, and that was becoming the most popular, the top concubine. And with their limited power, they often were limited to very violent, very sneaky acts, poisoning, murders. We read about Wu Zetian supposedly, rumor has it, strangling her own child in order to frame another concubine. So all of these issues going on within the system basically solidify these stereotypes that women were not capable of ruling, that they weren't capable of handling power, that they needed to be controlled, they needed to be repressed, because within this power system you see them being vicious and cruel oftentimes. So I think that also has an effect on how Wu Zetian is viewed, not only because she was a concubine, but because that structure helped emphasize stereotypes that were already in place through Confucianism, through just a simple fact that it was a patriarchal society. So for my paper, I'm going to really break down Confucianism and the system of concubinage in order to kind of remove those from Wu Zetian's image, in order to analyze if she was actually wicked or not. If we would strip her down to just her achievements and show that to a random stranger without a gender attached to it, if they would be able to say that that this person, these achievements of this stranger, would be more vicious, more cruel than any other ruler around the world, within China, within that dynasty. I really think that Confucianism and the system of concubinage have important roles to play in how Wu Zetian is labeled, how she is viewed, and how she's been recorded throughout history. I think none of this does her any favors, but I think it's very interesting to try to strip these away, strip these biases that we can see away, and see if we can find a different person underneath, or at least a less biased image of her. And we can never be certain of, exactly who this woman was, but we can obviously at least analyze the things that influence her image. And so I hope that my paper is going to bring a lot to the table in regards to at least shedding some light on these two factors. I think these are, again, important to talk about, because anyone who's not familiar with Chinese history or culture might not see these as important factors. And I think they have a lot to contribute to the bigger picture of her image. So I really hope that whoever grades my paper enjoys it. I know I'm going to enjoy writing it. I'm already having fun with it, simply because this is my major. So I enjoy, stuff like this, in the sense of it's information that I already have studied in school, and it's fun to kind of put all of that knowledge finally together in order to try to analyze a specific person. I think it's a lot of fun. So I really hope you enjoyed my video. I really hope I've shed enough light on my presentation of my paper. I hope I've given you a good enough idea of what I'm going to write about. So I guess we'll just see, but thank you for your time.